Can a fourth place in Serconde a technical and strategic failure of alarming proportions? Is Hamilton really in the team that can give him his 8th title? Or Ferrari is repeating the mistakes of the past, but now with his star signing? From the outside, the 4th place of Lewis Hamilton in the 2025 Austria Grand Prix could be interpreted as a sign of progress. After all, it matches its best result of the year and is among the top 5 in a demanding race. But when one scratches the surface, the panorama is deeply different. This result does not reflect improvement or adaptation. It is, in reality, a costume of an alarming situation within Ferrari, both technically and structurally. Hamilton finished the race 29 seconds from winner Lando Norris and 9 from his own teammate Charles Leclerc. But beyond those figures, the drama is in how that result was built, not where it ended. From the first round, the British pilot dealt with a critical problem: failures in the brake system. It was not a loss of gradual performance or a punctual incidence. It was a total limitation that altered its career approach from the first turn. Hamilton had to start managing the brakes manually, an adjustment that, in a sport of maximum precision such as Formula 1, completely compromises the rhythm and confidence in the car. The management not only implied earlier braking or caution in closed curves. It meant constantly conducting with the fear of a possible loss of control. And that for a pilot who builds his style about precision and domain in braking is devastating. This pattern has been recurrent in the previous careers of 2025, and Ferrari still does not offer a clear solution. The technical structure that should adapt to a pilot of his caliber does not, and each race is a repetition of problems that should already have been solved. The most frustrating for Hamilton and alarming for Ferrari is that these technical problems are just the tip of the iceberg. They are the symptoms of something deeper, a disconnection between the car design, the strategic decisions of the team, and the real needs of its new star pilot. The 4th position, then, does not represent an improvement. It is a mirage, an empty statistic that hides a crisis that is silently career after a career. The most disturbing thing is that this problem is a repeat offender. It is not a unique failure of the Austrian GP. It had already been detected in previous races, and Ferrari has not been able to accurately diagnose the root of the problem, much less to solve it. Each new brake game is an experiment, and for a pilot accustomed to operating with surgical precision, this generates generalized distrust throughout the car system. And although Hamilton has been clear in his request for solutions directly by pressing the team so that this issue is immediately resolved, the slow response and the lack of an effective component validation protocol increase the feeling that Ferrari is not yet ready to fight for championships with this type of demand. In this context, more than an anecdote, the phrase, "is a lottery," becomes an emergency diagnosis for a team that is playing with fire. Lewis Hamilton is a pilot who has defined generations in Formula 1, not only for his pure speed, but for his almost unique ability to build his style about the symmetry between car and pilot. His passage through Mercedes was a continuous demonstration of how the car could be a direct extension of his body and his reflexes. But in 2025, that bond has broken. And not for a matter of age or for lack of talent. The reality is much simpler and, at the same time, more devastating. The Ferrari SF25 is not built for him. It is a car that, in terms of behavior, design, and technical execution philosophy, belongs to another pilot. Rob Smedley, Ferrari's exingenious and respected voice within the paddock, explained it without surroundings. The problem is not Hamilton, it is the car. The SF25 was conceived under a logic of aggressiveness in the rear train, with a dynamic that favors fast curve inputs, gas corrections, and overlife as a turn tool. It is a car designed for someone like Charles Leclerc, who lives in the limit, who accommodates chaos, which turns the car with the rear axle even before the curve has begun to close. Leclerc pilotea al chaos, as described by its engineers. And that mentality fits perfectly with a car that tends to destabilize when it is required. But Hamilton doesn't pilot like this. His style is more methodical, more rational. He needs a rear axle that is predictable, that does not compromise the traction to the exit, that allows him to load confidence from the entrance to the exit of the curve without having to correct every 5 meters. Hamilton builds its laps with precision, with clean lines, taking advantage of each tenth with a perfect reading of the car balance. In the SF25, that is not possible. Every time he steps on the deep brake, the back of the car tends to move. Every time you transfer lateral weight, the car responds unpredictable. It's like trying to write poetry on a sheet of paper that is torn with each word. And here lies the greatest danger. Because Hamilton has already demonstrated in Mercedes that, with a car aligned in his style, it can be invincible. If Ferrari does not understand in time, he will not only lose careers, I could also miss the opportunity to make the most of one of the most talented and experienced pilots in the history of sport. A car that does not belong to it is not just a technical disadvantage. It is a psychological and competitive barrier that threatens to turn this project into a failure announced. In the world of Formula One, a technical update is not just a new piece or an aerodynamic redesign. It is a declaration of intentions. It represents months of work in simulators, wind tunnels, and test benches. It is the tangible manifestation of the attempt of a team to correct its defects and take a step forward. Therefore, when Ferrari arrived in Austria with his most important update from Shanghai, a new, completely redesigned soil, the expectations were very high. This improvement was not simply one more evolution in the season. It was the great technical commitment to reconfigure the behavior of the SF25, particularly in areas where it suffered the most: the rear axle instability and aerodynamic efficiency in medium curve. The floor of a car is one of the most sensitive areas in the current era of soil effect. It controls not only the airflow under the car, but also the ability to generate aerodynamic load without penalizing resistance. Ferrari had designed this version with the objective of stabilizing the rear in braking and lateral transitions, the two most critical phases where Hamilton reported erratic behaviors. In theory, this piece had to transform the car into a more balanced and predictable chassis, just what Hamilton needed to apply his pilot style with confidence. But in practice, reality was another. Leclerc, more accustomed to dealing with an aggressive rear train, did experience a slight improvement in its ability to attack high-speed curves. His rhythm was somewhat more competitive in the classification, and during the race he was able to maintain a consistency that previously seemed unattainable. However, for Hamilton, the story was completely different. The new soil did not solve any of the key problems that had been dragging. Instability persisted. Traction losses were still noticeable. And trust in the car, far from growing, eroded even more after verifying that the great technical solution did not translate into real performance for him. In addition, this update brought with it a hidden cost: time. In Formula One, each design cycle consumes limited resources. Betting on a soil development that fails to transform the dynamics of the car means losing valuable weeks that cannot be recovered. Meanwhile, teams such as McLaren continue to improve, consolidating a technical advantage that Ferrari will not be able to shorten, whether to invest in solutions that do not work universally for their pilots. Even Red Bull, with his own problems, maintains a coherent technical direction and based on cross data from both pilots, something that Ferrari still fails to replicate. This update then not only did not solve the problem but left it more exposed. Hamilton continues to claim a stable car. The team responds with an improvement that barely modifies its track experience. And the result is an increasingly isolated pilot within his own box, trying to find performance in an environment that does not recognize it or favor it. Austria had to mark the beginning of the recovery. But he ended up confirming something more worrying. Ferrari does not completely understand one of the biggest pilots of all time. And if they do not change technical course immediately, this will not be a year of transition for Hamilton. It will be a lost year. There are moments in Formula One where statistical data, as cold that seems, shout truths that a team cannot ignore. The 2025 Austria Grand Prix left one of those moments. Lewis Hamilton, with all his brake problems, with a car that does not respond to his style, and with a compromised strategy, ended only 9 seconds from Charles Leclerc. 9 seconds. In a race of more than an hour, with equal track conditions and without intervention of the security car. And he did it while managing a technical crisis from the first round. This number, which could go unnoticed in a superficial report, is actually a direct warning signal for Ferrari. The potential is there, buried under layers of technical uncoordination and wrong decisions. Hamilton showed a stronger pace in the second half of the GP, even when degradation began to affect everyone equally. Your ability to take care of tires and read the general rhythm of the race is still intact. It would not require a complete restructuring of the car. It would suffice with a minimal but intelligent adaptation. That is the great irony. The solution is not as far as it seems. Austria's Grand Prix has exposed a fracture that cannot be ignored. The brake problems, the rear axle instability, the technical philosophy of a car that does not fit with the style of its new star pilot, and the updates that do not solve key conflicts, all that points to a single direction. The Ferrari-Hamilton project is not well structured. At least not yet. And while there is time to change the course, the margin is reduced by career. The rivals do not expect. McLaren leaders. Mercedes appears. Red Bull, despite its internal turbulence, is still dangerous. If Ferrari intends to fight for the title in 2025, he needs a perfect synergy between pilot and machine. And today what he has is an obvious disconnection. To all this is added the human dimension of the problem. Hamilton is not just any pilot. His legacy is already cemented, but his ambition is still alive. He did not come to Maranello to retire with honor. He came to win, to mark an era, to conquer with Ferrari what he already did with Mercedes. But these types of projects require more than individual motivation. They need technical alignment, firm leadership from the offices, and an organizational culture that knows how to manage a talent like yours. Ferrari, in its recent history, has shown that it does not always know how to do it. And that is, perhaps, the greatest threat to this ambitious attempt at reconstruction. What Hamilton needs now is not time. He has already invested. What you need is action. A real validation that the team is willing to work with him, not only to demand that he adapt. The question that is floating in the air: can you react on time, correct the course, and build the car that Hamilton needs?